There's a new hunter stalking the skies. Take warning. Maximum pilot visibility. Daunting suppression options. Riskless onboard detainment. All at your fingertips. The predators have become the prey. The 2949 Hawk from Anvil.
Ladies and gentlemen, citizens, welcome back to the channel. Steve here, otherwise known as Pin, and today I would like to talk to you about the Anvil Hawk. It's a very cool looking ship. It is technically a light fighter and is descripted as such. However, I feel that this ship is kind of been built from the ground up to be a bounty hunting ship. It has some interesting history, which of course we will cover. It's a very cool looking ship. To call it a light fighter, I think, is a little bit ambitious in my opinion. There are certainly other light fighters that will stamp all over this, but there are some aspects to this ship which will make it essential for any would-be bounty hunter in the verse, new or veteran. This ship is certainly going to have a lot to offer us. Now we know that bounty hunting at the moment hasn't reached its full potential. We know there is a lot more coming to the bounty hunting game loop, and with all of the features on board this particular ship, I think that this is a ship to keep an eye on, and maybe you want to start saving up some Alpha UEC, sticking it in the bank, because I really do feel that this ship is going to come into its own and make bounty hunting very, very fun. So it has quite the arsenal. It has both weapons for damage and incapacitating, which is always nice. It does, of course, have its own EMP, which is also very nice. And in terms of maneuverability and speed, yes, it is fairly maneuverable. However, it isn't going to outturn out your roll, etc., an arrow, for example, but it can hold its own. Its flight characteristics in atmosphere are, I would say, excellent, and I can only see this ship really being for the solo adventurer who wants to earn that top Alpha UEC, or UEC I should say, when bounty hunting comes into a point where we can really maximize profit from doing this profession. So despite all of its cool features it already has, it does actually have room for a prisoner on board the ship, and you would not like to be sat in that particular seat, I can tell you that much. This could pay dividends, right? Because we know that there's a reputation system revolving around bounty hunting. So let's say the advantage of only being able to take one at a time would be, well, it forces you to take that captive back to wherever he or she needs to be in order to process the money for your hard work. Thus, if your ship gets destroyed, you only lose one contract and only one relevant piece of reputation. Now, if I was in a ship, for example, like a Cutlass Blue or a Stalker, and I've managed to collect, let's say, 6 bounties in my Stalker, and I think it's 4 or 5, maybe even 6 in the Cutlass Blue, and that ship then gets blown out of the sky, then I've just ruined 6 contracts and quite a lot of reputation. So they're the sort of benefits to just taking one at a time. Now, in terms of disabling ships, it does come with some distortion weaponry, and it does have that EMP, which is fairly draining on the power plant, so I would recommend that you consider upgrading the power plant to help with all of the power draw where possible. But overall, really, the Anvil Hawk, when bounty hunting becomes properly established into the verse, the Hawk is certainly a ship that you're not going to wish to turn your nose up at, because I just really think that the potential is huge. And it looks cool, which is a big tick in my box. There is only a few ships I don't like in the verse, This definitely isn't one of them. It is a fantastic looking ship. It handles well, it has some really cool features, i.e. exiting in and out the ship requires the seat to come down to ground level, which is an excellent and very fun way to get in the ship. Its designs and wing ability to fold is also pretty cool. You know, it's got the bright red glass, and it definitely looks more like a pterodactyl than any sort of bird of prey, i.e. a hawk. So it's got that going for it. So it's going to be an absolutely fantastic ship in the future, and it isn't exactly bad now. There are a few areas that I think need polishing, but overall it is an absolute superb ship, and it has quite some interesting history, which we will go through shortly. Now, as you can see, I managed to get the Jericho to myself unmolested, which is some sort of miracle. And what a better backdrop to talk about the history of this ship than, of course, the mighty Jericho. We will obviously be taking our walk around on here as well. It's not often we get to park unimpeded on a ship of this magnitude, so that's what we'll do. So let's now then take a little dive into some of the history of the Anvil Hawk, why it was built, why it's here today, what we can expect to achieve in the future with it, and yeah, let's take it from there. Okay guys, let's now go through some of the ship development and history of the Anvil Hawk. In August 2935, the United Empire of Earth's High Command issued a set of tentative specifications for a new spacecraft role. A single-seat fighter orientated towards close-range dogfighting, logistic support, and ground attack missions. The idea, codenamed Brawler, was sourced to Aegis Dynamics, Anvil Aerospace, and Drake Interplanetary, who all submitted first-round bids for the contract. The Drake proposal, which called for an underwhelming rework of the existing Cutlass platform, was rejected out of hand. Aegis and Anvil's proposals each consisted of brand new designs, each tackling High Command's requests in different ways. Both were advanced to the next phase and were asked to produce a prototype. From the start, Aegis' proposal, nicknamed Bearcat, seemed a likely victor. The company funneled over $1 billion credits into a custom-tooled space frame intended to exactly meet the multi-role specifications. Anvil, with a more limited budget, opted to develop a spacecraft that shares several expensive components used in the active Hornet lineup. Although this place was considered risky, especially after Drake showing in the initial bid, but their thinking was that the consolidation of shared parts would make their prototype the most appealing long-term option, even if it could not match the Bearcat in every performance category. The result was the Hawk, a spacecraft best described by her test pilot, Macy Push Gregg, as overpowered, overgunned, and under budget. Built around a larger than expected power plant, the Hawk team opted to trade engine performance for a full set of 6 cannons. While the Hawk shared components and construction methods with the Hornet, one difference was immediately visible: variable geometry wings intended to allow the spacecraft to better operate from forward bases and short runways. In January 2937, both prototypes were transferred to the reckless 999th Test Squadron and deployed to the Godiva Lake facility for a full comparative performance program. It was here that the wisdom of Anvil's approach was quickly established. Where the technically superior Bearcat struggled to accomplish mission goals, the Hawk passed with flying colours. While the Bearcat was at ranged engagements and more traditional dogfighting, Anvil's design better matched the original specification. Their engineers had constructed a spacecraft that was both rugged and workable. Military observers took to referring to the hardy spacecraft as the Iron Hawk, a term that would go on to see extensive use in Anvil's marketing campaign. Unfortunately, the Hawk's taste of victory was short. While it earned the production contract, it ultimately saw limited adoption by the military. The first fleets to deploy the Hawk, designated U-9 Alpha, found it suited to a specific set of mission types, but not to the modern realities of space warfare. Luckily for Anvil, the Hawk story did not end here. While the Hawk did not have a strong military purpose, the word of its performance quickly spread to thriving bounty hunting community. It took little convincing for Anvil to roll out a civilian model, taking advantage of the massive increase in bounty licenses in 2940. with several additions including EMP weaponry and a containment pod capable of safely storing a second passenger. Okay, so that's some pretty interesting stuff. The thing to take away from that is, Anvil have built a ship that won a military contract against Aegis. Drake were dropped immediately because they were trying to reuse a Cutlass. And in terms of bounty hunting as a whole, there are a lot of ships in game that have been refitted in order to accompany that game loop, right? So the Cutlass Blue is a variant of a ship. The Titan Stalker is a variant of a ship that's been swapped around in order to fill the bounty hunting role within the verse. So it won out, and then quickly they seemed to realise that maybe the Hawk wasn't the best military vehicle for the purposes that the military needed, which is kind of interesting. So Anvil did the smart thing and put it on the civilian market, where it quickly got snapped up and proved its worth. That's all very interesting, but there's one aspect I think that this ship will most certainly appeal to. Now, we know that there are government agents that have the license to go about the verse and track people down regardless of where they are, and either capture or kill them. And I honestly believe that this ship is going to be the answer for those quote-unquote secret agents. I can't remember for the life of me what they were called. Despite me trawling through so much lore, I could not remember the name. They do actually have a name, so if you do know, please tell me in the comments, because it is driving me mental. But those secret agents will almost certainly have a lot of success in killer capture scenarios in and around the verse, because I do believe that role is achievable in-game and will be available to the hardcore bounty hunting community. So this ship will almost certainly aid you in your capture of wanted criminals or terrorists or whatever it could possibly be. Then why not take the Hawk? So quite interesting stuff there, or at least I found it to be. Let's then move on to some more information regarding the Anvil Hawk as we again fly over the beast that is, of course, the Jericho. Service history. The first delivery of production model U9 Alpha-1 Hawks occurred in October 2938. The first unit to transition was the 38th Reconnaissance Wing based in Coral System. Although assigned to a forward strike base at Low, the reasoning for the deployment was to allow the Hawk trial by fire all-weather training on Castor. These Hawks performed well, though they found themselves with only a limited set of mission options as irrelevant ground and close-range targets quickly learned to avoid the area. 9 additional military units moved to the Hawk, and another 5 reserve wings continue to operate the spacecraft today. Private Hawk sales began in 2940 after a military oversight panel confirmed Anvil's ability to provide design to the public. In civilian service, it became immediately clear that the Hawk's design could be incredibly successful in particular roles, chief among them bounty hunting. So-called gold rush hunters, lured by the high payouts and romanticised media attention given the career around this time, they purchased the Hawks in droves. The first bounty collected by a Hawk pilot happened only after 16 hours since the first ship was sold. The capture was that of York Dart Clevo, a notorious raider for the region who had been taking seemingly effective potshots at commercial convoys for 6 months. So this guy's a lunatic and he clearly needs to be locked up. His captor, an anonymous hunter, managed to locate him by running silent along a 7-ship food convoy. When the Cutlass opened up at extreme range, she brought her Hawk online, hit him several times with full volleys and disabled several thrusters. The bounty hunter was rewarded with an additional sponsorship bounty by Anvil for her contributions to the press surrounding the civilian Hawk's rollout. Clevo was then sentenced to 5 years on quarterdeck. Veteran Hawk pilot Tom Horn explained the spacecraft's appeal thusly. The secret to the Hawk's success is that it is a practical example of a ship that allows novice pilots to expose more power than they are used to, but that also scales up alongside experience. Where a rookie bounty hunter can make good use of the 6 guns and not worry about the more limited engine output, a better trained expert can balance the ship's strengths and weaknesses together quite artfully. You don't need to learn to fly a Hawk so much as you learn to play it like a musical instrument, and in the hands of a virtuoso, it's a real killer. Bounty hunting is not exclusively the domain of ship-to-ship combat, with almost 70% of live captures typically happening on the ground. Here again, the Hawk excels by allowing its compact landing form to park even on a busy city street. Current models of the Hawk also mount a gun rack, allowing working hunters to equip themselves for missions more easily than other military designs, for which such a luxury would have been an afterthought. In the wake of the Battle of Vega II in 2945, Anvil began leasing of Hawks to the frontier militias looking to outfit with inexpensive modern spacecraft. Rather than the legacy military hardware, the Magnus militia was the first to purchase a Hawk unit, deploying them effectively for fast responders to outlaw activity. In the years since, several dozen militias have adopted or been built around Hawks, with positive marks for their performance all round. Where vintage military spacecraft like the Gladius may be better traditional dogfighters, they are generally not as versatile as the Hawk. The latest model of Hawk was introduced on November 24th, 2947, to much fanfare. It is a rare example of a spacecraft being delivered early. The initial plan had been to launch the upgrade in Q1 2948. Factory overruns and the recent addition of new production line meant that Anvil was able to premiere the ship early. Okay guys, so there we've talked about how the ship came about, we talked about some of its history, and I actually found it quite interesting how this ship has come to... It won a military bid, and not too long afterwards they discovered it wasn't quite suitable for what the military had in mind. Then it was opened up to the civilian market, and it proved extremely successful among bounty hunters, and it proved its worth almost immediately. 16 hours after release, boom, captured criminal. We caught the lunatic taking pot shots at a convoy, so I'm glad he's locked up because he's obviously batshit crazy. So it immediately proved its worth. And then another aspect that we learnt from the history of the ship that we just discussed, militia love this ship. Now that never dawned on me that militia and alike would have fleets of these things. That's very cool. Now imagine in the future hiring militias or coming across a militia of Anvil Hawks on patrol. Maybe they've been paid by UEE to run anti-pirate organisations and operations. That would be epic. And as I've previously mentioned, those secret agents, I can't remember for the life of me what they're called. Please remind me, somebody. I can see those agents using these to go in. They are authorised to go anywhere, either kill, capture and maim anyone that's on their hit list. I think this will be a very good a very go-to ship for them. I would certainly pick this. The only issue I'd have is, well, it depends what system the target is in and how much range we have. Let's say we've been sold information on our particular suspect or criminal, and we want to navigate. We could get to that particular system, track him down, and dispense justice. You know, the Hawk is going to be perfect for that. It's very small, nice and compact. We can get places with this ship. I think it's got a lot of fun potential, you know, and I certainly would think that travelling through system to system could be a bit of a problem. After all, it is a relatively small ship, but I'm sure we could hitch a ride on a Liberator. We could pay our way to get to the target, right? And finally catching your target and putting him in the back of that seat, that prison seat, is going to be extremely gratifying, I think. Now, obviously, the ship has an EMP, which is great. You have to be within 500 meters, I would say, so about half a kilometer to truly get it to work efficiently. I would also suggest that you wear down the enemy's shields first and then hit them with the EMP, which you will be able to do with the right equipment. We do have 2 distortion weaponry on board, so get the shields down, deploy the EMP. That will render your target pretty much useless. Then you've got options as a bounty hunter or secret agent, quote unquote. Do you kill or capture? Bearing in mind that in the future you will get more money for bringing your target home alive than you will dead. So having an EMP and distortion weapons on board is almost certainly going to improve your chances of bringing back that big UEC credit transaction from whoever your employer tends to be at the time and how much the contract is worth. Having these utilities on board is certainly going to help that. So that is another thing to think about. Also, things like the Cutlass Blue with the quantum dampening and the Titan Stalker with the cells in the back, they are again sort of variations built to fulfill a role, whereas the Hawk has been built ground up with all of this in mind. And I do think that in itself makes this ship extremely worth keeping an eye on, because I think as bounty hunting becomes more polished and we get more and more information on how the bounty hunting world is going to evolve, then why wouldn't I take a Hawk? It's got that sort of bounty hunting role in mind, even though it's described as a light fighter. I would say it's more of a dedicated bounty hunter, arguably more than some of the other things we have. It's easy to land, it's very small, we're going to be able to get places that maybe some other ships might not be able to. If there's someone that's gone to ground, even in a city, we could land this on the road, no problem. So there's a lot of potential here with this ship, and I think it brings a lot of excitement. Well, for me, I get carried away on myself. You know what I'm like. I start and then I don't stop. So that's the sort of thought process I've had. I do think the Hawk has huge potential, and all honesty, I will be looking to use this as much as possible in the future. Now what we'll do, guys, is now that I've rambled on a little bit, is we will take our, of course, ship tour, and we'll walk around it and have a good old look. On the deck of the Jericho, again, completely unmolested, not sure what's going on there, but we will maximise our time on this deck. Now, as you can see, landing gear down. It's a reverse landing gear, reverse tricycle landing gear layout. We have the wings all folded. It is small and compact, which is going to make that useful in the future for getting into tight spots, maybe landing in the center of like a colony to apprehend someone, just arriving unannounced, boom, you're straight down, run into their main building, taser the guy or lasso him, whatever you've got to do, drag his dopey ass back into, you know, you're coming with me, RoboCop style, dead or alive, you're coming with me. That was a terrible impression, but you'll get over it. You get my point. And then moving around the back, we've got the awesome wing layout, and here we have the prisoner's seat. Okay, so we're going to get in it, and this is an area I think needs polishing, and this then by design is meant to be this freaking horrible. You do not want to get caught and apprehended and then put in the back. Look at it, it's just, that's your entire view for millions of miles possibly. That's horrible, you know. My advice to you, if you're a criminal, don't get caught, because that is bloody horrific. It's just a tiny little viewport. Can you imagine? And I'm talking millions of miles possibly cramped in there. No thank you, pass, not interested. So don't get caught. If you're a naughty citizen, do not get caught. So we have the long sort of tail leading towards the engines. At the back of the tail above the prisoner's seat, you would have noticed the chaff dispensers, well, noise and flare dispensers at the back. It's nicely lit. And there is a unique feature on this as well. So the rear landing gear does actually, when it deploys, also has a weapon rack, which is nice, because I kind of like that idea of hopping out the cockpit, immediately going to grab a weapon. You can see it there just by the landing gear. I'll take a closer look at it in a moment for you when we've done the full circle. Grabbing a weapon, going straight into a building, you know, weapon drawn, you know, where's the target? Let's do business. Let's make some cash. I like that aspect. The bad thing about it is someone could easily go in there and snatch your weaponry, right? If you're not careful. As you can see, it's fully exposed there on that rear landing gear. That's the weapon rack. Anyone can come along and sort of help themselves, which is, you know, a little bit cheeky, but I think it's a nice little touch. We also have that viewing glass at the bottom, which is going to be great for helping. Maybe you're tracking a target that's running on a hover bike. So when you're in the cockpit, as we get in now, you can see the seat extends to the floor, which is awesome. I mean, that's worth buying just for the seat, in my opinion. That's cool. So we get in, we have a nice MFDs, but we do have the viewing pane. So if we're tracking, maybe someone's on a Dragonfly, we have the viewport here. we can track them through that. That's awesome. Like that. MFDs are fantastic, really nicely modelled and very easy to reach and read. We like that. There's only 2 major struts and the view is not that obstructed at all. No real complaints here. It's nice and cozy, quite tight, but it's a ship designed for one thing and one thing only, which is the apprehension of criminals. As far as I'm concerned, light fighter, I don't think so. I mean, it can be. It's right on the cusp. You can, of course, use it as a light fighter, but for me, it's for suspect apprehension. It is a space police car, as far as I'm concerned, and it's pretty bloody cool. So we have all the usual buttons and MFDs and everything we want. We have the radar in the middle, and it is nicely lit. Everything's nice and easy to read. We have various panels and buttons that hopefully get modelled in the future, making the ship even more cool than it already is. So yeah, very good. And I believe it is the HOSAS system, with all my waffling, HOTAS, sorry. So very nice system, very nice cockpit. Overall, this ship is going to be amazing. As you can see, we've got 2 sucker punches there to help disable enemy shields, which will make for good times. Moving on then, we have a closer look at the gun rack here. And that is at the rear on the landing gear. So again, nice little feature. Could work both ways. Could be bad, could be good. Who knows? But what we'll do now, guys, is we will now move on to some of the ship weaponry. And more importantly, we'll take a look at some of the components you get stock. I haven't changed anything on this ship, so this is exactly what you'll get when you purchase it for the first time. So let's now take a look at the components. Okay guys, let's now go over some of the components that you will get when you buy this for the first time. They are the stock components that you can expect to find on the ship. So as you can see, we have 2 coolers, 2 shield generators, a power plant and a content drive. The coolers are bracers. They are size 1 grade 3. You get 2 of those. They are made by Aegis Dynamics and they are military grade. I can't see a reason to change them at the moment. That could change in the future. The power plant, we have a Regulus, again Aegis Dynamics. It's a size 1 grade 3 military class power plant. This I almost certainly will upgrade in the future just to help with power draw with the EMP. The EMP can be quite demanding on the ship itself. The QT drive is a Rush. It's a size 1 grade 3 civilian. I will more than likely swap this out for an Atlas to get myself some extra range out of this particular vessel, especially in the future. I think range could be a important factor to this ship. Shield generators, we get 2. They are the All Stop. They are size 1 grade 3 class military from Gorgon Defender Industries. I would probably swap those out for FR66s. I think they are off the top of my head. And when it comes to weapons, I don't really have an issue with the they are fixed weaponry. Okay, you can swap them for gimbaled size 1. I wouldn't see the need to, personally. The ship is maneuverable enough as it is. But I am very tempted to swap these out for an all distortion firing weapon platform. I'm very tempted, with the exception of maybe 2 laser repeaters. Very similar to my Buccaneer loadout, because I think in the future, capturing your suspects, criminals, whatever it might be, contracts alive yields more profit. And if I can disable that ship much faster with a blast of distortion weapons followed by an EMP, then that's what I'm going to do. So I think that could be really fun. Let me know what you run for this ship if you have it. If you have any tips and tricks for anyone or any particular components you're using, then please do let me know down below. I'm also interested to hear how you would use this ship in the future, or how you're going to use this ship in the future. For me, I think it's underestimated. So guys, I do read all the comments, or try to, as much as possible. So I am interested in your feedback, so don't be shy. Let loose in the comments below, guys. So as you can see, we get 2 sucker punches and then 4 M4A cannons, which do quite a lot of DPS, but like I said, I think I would be switching them out for an all incapacitating loadout. So there we go, guys. That was my video on the Anvil Hawk. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, you know what buttons to press, and I will have more Star Citizen content en route to you very soon. Thank you. Cheers.